Hi there. Um, so chuffed. We've got Peter Muscutt today on an unplanned, unfiltered Catcher Upper podcast. And Pete very kindly decided and agreed to do this. So, um, how are you?
I'm great, thanks, Joe. Very, very pleased to join you this afternoon.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good because you've done a few and a lot of people know everything about you. But I'm going to ask you a question that we really need an answer for. Every mention of Peter Muscat on social media, the first person to give the tick is Rosalind.
100%. I'm actually in very big trouble for not mentioning Rosalind in my post race interview. And I said to myself the whole week, and I was extremely confident heading into Sunday's uh, Cape Slipper. And I said to myself the whole week, if the horse does win, I've got to give special mention to Rosalind, and in all the hype and excitement, I forgot to, but I did apologize to her straight after the race.
I'm sure, and for the last 5 days. Listen, Pete, but it's true, eh? I mean, behind all success stories, especially with men, there's always this powerful woman, isn't it? It's just the way it works, huh?
Yeah, 100%. Rosalind's support of me and our whole business and our whole team is unwavering,
Yeah,
and
really
I
good.
cannot tell her how much I appreciate it.
Yeah, listen, that's really, I know she's present, but I'd already in my head that I was going to mention that because it's evident. Right, Peter. So with winning one race, you're nowhere near what Justin's won in stakes, but Tuska's, that was a big prize on Sunday. Eh?
Yeah,
Yo.
yeah. Justin kept on haggling me in the week leading up into the sales, and he said, "No, you've beaten me on three occasions, but now we're sending the A team." So he also said that he put in three horses, to which my reply was, "Well, you're going to have to hunt in packs to beat me."
Listen, they're all shitting. I mean, um, went to the front. Just it's so hard to do that at Kenilworth, and obviously I know some of the owners, Blaine and Gino, and Goodman bred the horse, and yeah, listen, that was really impressive, and he looks like a really nice 2-year-old. That
Yeah, he's furnished, matured, great. The only reason I went to Cape Town was
for
for
the
that
three
race.
grand,
Sorry?
for the 3 grand appearance money.
No, that we can get that here too. Uh, but I do feel that the benefit that you give to your 2-year-olds by taking them into the Cape summer as opposed to the wet, humid, hot Durban summer is immeasurable, and they
Yeah,
they they return after that Cape summer, even if they haven't raced, far better
yeah. Dennis
horses.
Ryder did it, didn't he? He did it.
Did
Yeah,
it for you,
yeah,
David
yeah,
Pelham, Herman Brown,
yeah,
Fred Rickaby, the
yeah.
whole mob.
All done it, yeah.
Mr.
Which,
Rickaby, Mr. Rickaby used to take a whole string of 2-year-olds and not even run them there.
yeah, just yeah, I get it, I get it. And again, a question this one I didn't know I was going to answer, but for those people that have never watched a Peter Muscat podcast, this man's knowledge of racing and the journey that he's been on to be where he is today is spectacular. So, always a trainer looking and learning. That's one thing I can say.
Yeah, I've done that through my entire racing career, Joe, and that's why I've uh, traveled all over the world trying to enhance my knowledge, enhance my experience
Yeah.
from Singapore to the Middle East to New Zealand to Australia. And I've tried to gain as much benefit out of every situation as I can. Um, South Africa has always has been and always will be home,
Yeah.
and I'm extremely grateful for the journey that I've been on, and I'm now trying to capitalize on giving all my peers a head start, um, and now
Well, I'm
now
not sure about that.
catch up.
I'm not sure about that because um, you're a couple of years older than me.
Yeah.
but we genuinely embrace technology. And I can say Peter Muscutt Racing Stables embraces technology. So if they develop a new ear monitor in Venezuela to measure a horse's ear flapping during a race, Muscat's on it.
I will be there. Yeah, most
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, look, I mean, as you know, I've got horses with Paul and Tony. Paul's also is obsessed with finding all these little things everywhere, and maybe it's trainers that start with the letter P. I don't know.
Possibly.
Possibly, right. So we'll talk more about horses like Isivungu and other horses that you've got and your future and your plans for this season. But let's delve into the technology side of it. So I'm well aware that you use Equimeter, Ariania, with the great support of Eric Fordred and the team in France. We used it for a long time in our pre-training. Um, it makes a difference, huh?
Without it, Joe, I don't think I could have had the success that I've had. Um, I'm a
Success or consistency?
Yeah, I'm a total convert on the whole concept. I originally started in Australia on the heart rate monitors,
Yeah,
the e-tracker situation with Chris Waller, which is a great system. Andrew, who's in charge of the e-tracker from Perth, is the original inventor of it, has a vast knowledge, and I spent hours and hours in conversation with them whilst in Australia on the advantages of it. And I think without it today, with that technology, you're not going to go forward.
Um, can I pull you on the two words? Because you're too good for you to not be successful. So please indulge me. Is it success or consistency? Do you know what I mean? Because a horse's ability is a horse's ability, right? But if you are constantly I'm playing devil's advocate here, when you're constantly measuring a horse's performance in training, etc., your stats tell us that your horses run consistently, and I'm thinking it's because of the meter.
Well, I think it's got a lot to do with it.
Obviously,
Obviously,
you know what you're doing, right?
my time training both here, South Africa, Singapore, my experience with Chris Waller, had, and basically started with the grounding that I got with my father.
Yeah. So as a horseman, you're awesome, but
Yeah,
you're
so
saying you need this thing, or you embrace this thing, I should say.
I do certainly.
Yeah.
I use it at every available opportunity. Um, my I've sort of, even in the last 6 to 8 months, I've probably graduated myself because
Yeah. It's
I
evolved.
initially, yeah, I've evolved my usage of it.
Right.
Uh, so I was only initially doing it on grass gallops.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
but I've now started doing it on different surfaces, heavy tracks, lighter tracks. So you have to establish a norm for each surface that you're working on,
Benchmark,
and
yeah.
incorporate that into your final product or your final assessment of where exactly you are with each horse.
Yeah. And I don't know how much you know about it, but Cleaver Green, Humdinger, Billy Bowlegs, all these horses that I've been associated with, they all came through our pre-training program with this product.
Yeah, you see it. Yeah. So sorry to interrupt. I wasn't uh, really aware of the the benefits of using it on young horses until this last Cape season, and with the benefit of Eric, we put it on horses on the cinder track, on the heavy sand track, and the knowledge that I gained and the informative information that I got out of it through seeing horses' heart rates and heart muscle
Stride,
evolve.
stride.
Stride length, yes, it's difficult to
Covering, yeah,
equate stride length on heavy tracks, and so there's
right.
a massive difference. But what I really gained out of it was how horses' hearts evolve from early stages of 2-year-old training to race fitness. Some of those babies were hitting a maximum of 270 heart rate in the early stages of their training. And over the course of 3 months, their hearts evolved to and they were then hitting sort of peaking out at 220 beats per minute, which is probably about the norm for an older horse. So the evolution of a horse's heart was phenomenal to me.
So we've gone from, for the viewers out there, we've almost gone from fight or flight to being conditioned to race.
100%, 100%.
So instead of pumping blood carelessly because you're nervous, we're now in a controlled thing. So for me, for the guys out there who don't know, I ran at least 30 comrades. Bollocks, but anyway. But if you do understand that kind of thing, then that's vital. And I'm pretty sure every trainer understands that, but actually having it in front of you on a piece of paper, just
no, it's actually been, it's enlightened me so much about how immature these little horses are when we bring them into work. And so it's not only a myocardial evolution. Obviously, it's musculoskeletal adaptation to what we're trying to get them to do.
Yeah.
And to see that evolution of that heart in a short space of time, it's actually just blown me away.
And for everybody out there, because we do have a lot of punters that watch, this has got zero bearing on a horse's ability, by the way. This doesn't make a horse faster or slower. We're just analyzing a horse's progress in his training and pre-racing career.
Correct.
And then adjusting, the trainer's job is then to adjust accordingly. Train harder, train softer, whatever. Yeah.
100%. Once you get to your peak fitness areas, it's just a matter of ticking them over. You don't have to put the gun to their head all the time and push them out in their work, and that they do that for themselves.
Yeah. So we had a horse. I used to have a horse with you that I think I sold a share in, or I got out of it for whatever reason. And we ran against you in a 1,200-meter race at Greyville with a horse called Money Heist.
Yes.
And I've still got his PDFs leading up to that race, and how his heart rate and everything had gotten to a point that he was an absolute certainty to run in the first 3. He was so well that day. And he got beaten a short head. Was it Captain Bombshell? I can't remember.
I think Kwasi for sure beat him.
Or something like that. Yes, and you beat us on the line. And but yes, as an owner, I was able to.
No, correct. It was Captain Bombshell.
It was Captain Bombshell, yeah. As an owner, I was looking at this horse's progress. I mean, this isn't a thing like this anyway, guys, the people watching. This is, you need to build that data. So I am so delighted that Peter's doing it with his young horses, because what will happen now is, I'm telling Peter what will happen, but he knows already. But for those guys watching, by the time military command races as a 4-year-old, Peter will have 2 years of data on that horse.
Yeah. Well, he was the he was one of the real enlighteners while I was in the Cape season, and Eric and myself had extensive talks about him, because we had little blimps in the middle and things we account for. And the one day he worked and his heart rate shot through into the 270s.
Right.
Which obviously there's alarm bells, serious alarm bells.
Very high.
Anyway, we just worked through it and sort of went over his work, and I try and video all their harder workouts.
Yeah.
And we finally came up with the conclusion that he'd really spooked just prior to working, and he is that sort of horse.
Yeah.
He's not a straightforward horse, but he's very manageable on most fronts. you might have seen when he raced on Sunday, he did get stirred up in the barriers, and which is obviously something we're going to try and iron out with him. But once we'd worked out the anomalies in his elevated heart rate, then we were able to focus on the real deal.
So my dream with this whole thing was, and I approached many people, unfortunately, it's quite an expensive product, but I even sat with David Safi from Form Grids, okay, because I think the future of horse racing is all of this data will be from cradle to grave. So from pre-training, training, racing, and then results, because that got to be the utopia, right? We know leading up into a race what this horse's data was. We then know what its data was and its performance in a race, and we can then work. And
yeah. I fully concur with your concept, and
how we get there is a different.
yeah, that's a different story. But obviously, it is an expensive bit of equipment that you
Yeah.
dealing with, and you have to have data analysts to incorporate it and analyze. But as you say, that would be utopia. I'm all for disseminating as much information to each and every punter, to assist them to making a calculated assessment of their selection to maximize their chances of winning on a horse race.
I couldn't concur more. I couldn't concur more. I think our product will improve if we implemented this product right through. And I know it's prohibitive, but I mean, Peter, we were looking at putting up a windsock at Summerfeld.
Yeah.
I was looking at taking penetrometer readings of the different tracks and inputting all that data, how much the work rider weighs. I mean, for
Yeah.
those guys watching again, this stuff is invaluable data, and data is king.
100%. Joe, if you take an operation like Karen Ma, for instance, in Australia, who
600 horses.
is a phenomenal trainer. I'm not sure how many people he has working on in the backgrounds on the equimeter, but his results speak for themselves. Chris Waller is an absolute genius of a trainer. He's just elevated his status. He raises his own bar every year.
Yeah.
When I first started working for him, he'd had one Group 1 winner. When I left 7 years later, he'd had 78.
Yeah. Are you taking credit for some of them?
None at all.
None. Oh, come on, Peter. This is Glistian Unfiltered. You can say whatever you.
None at all. None at all. No, he's a genius.
No, you're right. Listen, this is the only way to go. So even still today, Glistian, we still do it. We still like to track our babies. We still do this. I give them more time on the farm. I've got my own pre-training regime. I do my own thing still today. I think it gives so much information as an owner, and I can't wait for everyone to sort of get on board. The more people get on board, I think the people in France will make it cheaper potentially.
Yeah.
We need the NHRA to get on board. Are we yet able to scan the chips? I don't think we are. You still got to input the horse's name.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you still scan. Yeah.
Yeah, you still got to do all that. So it's just
It's imperative for the efficiency of the system. So
yeah, exactly. And like you say, the more information we give out, the better. Right.
there's no question on that one.
There's no question on that one. Right. Let's move on to the next topic. And I don't know how pressed for time you are, but
No, I'm fine.
I'm gonna fire the first shot across the thing because you phoned me before and you told me you were gonna ask something, but I'm not gonna let you ask it. I'm gonna let you put me in my place. Peter Muscutt, I do not like barrier trials.
Well,
Should I like them?
you should like them. I don't think it was given a fair opportunity to be beneficial when
Okay.
it was instituted in South Africa. It was far too, I can't say regulated, but my experience of barrier trials in Australia is they're a great asset to your training program, a great asset to your training regime. It's done on a far more, I'm not saying non-regulated, but there's no way outs. Everything's done on a catch weight situation. Most of the trials are sort of 900 meters. You can have 30 or 40 trials in a day.
Really? Okay, obviously they've got a massive horse population, but yeah.
But
So when you say unregulated in inverted commas, okay, um, let's just discuss Australia. How does it work? Because obviously in South Africa, there was also a logistical situation where horses had to be picked up, taken to the race course. It's an hour away. To move 100 horses costs X amount of money. I'm assuming that might have been some of the resistance in South Africa.
Possibly in Australia, some of those horses those blokes are bringing them out from the country and the provincials to come and trial in the city, and they driving themselves for 3 or 4 hours just to get the horse there. So the resistance, I think, is
Go
I
on.
really don't know what the resistance was, to be honest, but I'm more than in favor of them being.
Would you race a horse? Would anyone race a horse in Australia without having a barrier trial?
99% no.
Right. So we're copying Australia in syndication. We're copying Australia in TCO2. We're copying Australia in everything. Maybe we should consider reintroducing these barrier trials. Now, who pays for them in Australia?
The owners pay, because it is an invaluable route to success. First of all, from a young horse's perspective, that experience they gain in those trials, racing or trialing against 8 or 9 or 10 of their unraced 2-year-olds, raced 2-year-olds, whatever, just gives them, by the time they get to the races, they know what to do.
Fair enough.
They're still going to be green to some extent, but the vast majority jump out on a race after having a trial, and they're pretty much up to the mark.
Right.
So they're going to show
there's value in that. So I follow American racing like almost 24 hours a day. I love American racing, and we have in American racing they have most of the horses are trained on the track, but very rarely do you see a horse not ping the gates, and that comes from the way they
well, repetition.
Yeah.
So I was quite amazed when I went over for the Breeders' Cup.
Yeah. Did it blow your mind?
Well, I was not a fan of American racing for many years. I follow every racing jurisdiction in the world, and I've always obviously watched the Kentucky Derby and the Belmont and the Breeders' Cup and that. But I was a total convert.
No, it's differently
After going to see the Breeders'
Well,
Cup.
and that doesn't surprise me, Peter, because when all the trainers watching this, including yourself, don't be offended, but I've never understood half canter. I've never understood it because one guy's interpretation isn't 12.2, the other one's 12.8, and the other one's 13 seconds, right? That does not happen in America.
Yeah, no. Times are imperative. Yeah,
data is imperative.
When in Rome, do as the Romans do, and their training regime is vastly divorced from what we traditionally know and do in South Africa. The training regime in Australia is vastly different to what we do here. But I think it's all about educating.
Some things you can take, right? You can take some things from it.
Oh, 100%.
I've seen some jockeys in South Africa now have got a little clicker on the ear.
That's probably my doing because I've got it on all my work riders.
Well, and when I was in Hong Kong, Dougie White said to me when I was in Hong Kong, he said to me, if I tell Lyle Hewitson to go 12 and a half, and he goes 12 or 14, He needs to take a break from the ring for a day or two.
Well, I've and it's entirely possible in this country, and I've tried to advocate it with the Jockeys Academy to try and teach the young kids paces, and they've done it to a certain extent. Some of them as individual young men
Have
have,
bought it.
have bought it, and I've bought numerous ones for them. And all my work riders, um, most of whom have been with me for quite a while, if I tell them to go 14 seconds to the furlong, they will do it.
And now with your Ariano, I'm assuming you can also do debriefs and go, hey, by the way, you were slightly out.
I show it to them all the time. So if they've gone too fast, I bring them into the office and I show, okay, you were supposed to canter from the 1,000 on the cinders,
Yeah.
and you can't walk for the first 2 furlongs, and then you've got to go 14s from the 600. Most of them they're going 13.8, 14.1, 14.
Makes
So
it. And
entirely possible in our environment
yeah,
to be able to uplift. And
yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
not saying educate the riders, but if you want, well, like myself as a trainer, I want to know how much my horse is doing. It's entirely possible. Um, just spending a little bit of time with your riders and explaining to them what you want exactly, that they can do it. And it's phenomenal how progressive and how good they've got uh, over the course of time. That if I want them to go 14s for 5 furlongs, they will do it.
Yeah. And again, we look at the computer form and we say, okay, fastest to finish. So the punter's already educated on time. We already understand how vital time is. So having people doing the right times in the mornings really translates to why we ran an article about you the other day. Your stats are really bearing up a high level of consistency, um, and consistency isn't always just with good horses. You want the shit horses, which the majority of them are, quite frankly, lowerly rated. But that doesn't mean in a handicap the horse shouldn't be consistent. And it's remarkable looking at your stats because I knew you sort of did this already, but I'm really hearing that it's gone to another level, and it's so good. So, what else did you pick up in America?
Uh, well, obviously the hype and everything around the Breeders' Cup was phenomenal. The way the race meeting was run, the
Brilliant, isn't it?
efficiency of everybody involved in the making of that race meeting was phenomenal. Um, I think the biggest thing that that sort of hit me was the care and attention that the grooms and riders take of their horses.
Right?
Most of them are looked after by Mexicans, and they are absolutely passionate about their horses.
Really?
The man that looked after Isi Vungu Vungu could hardly speak a word of English,
Well, that's
but
suitable with Isi Vungu Vungu, right?
correct. Anyway, he just in the short time that I spent with him, I just really, really felt that this horse was meant everything to him,
Oh, that's lovely. That's what.
and you could see that the horse really appreciated his attention. Listen, he is a lovely horse to work with, and he's very amenable and does basically what you want. But I could see an evolution in the horse
Oh, okay.
from that, not only on that perspective, but also the riders that are riding him every day. He obviously, as he's got older, he's matured, and he's far more uh, tractable, because he was quite a tearaway initially. Um, but I think as he's got older, and obviously having traveled extensively, he's just become the supreme racehorse to train. And Graham Motion, we get a weekly update from Graham,
Really? Oh,
uh,
that's good.
leading into all his races. and he's just so tractable on the track now. He just does everything right. He ran, he galloped or breezed, as they say, 4 furlongs,
Breeze, yeah, that's right.
and they only breeze once a week. So the rest of the week um they doing slow work. So he breezed. Most of them only breeze once a week, and
Does he
he
train differently, Peter? He obviously trains differently,
yes,
obviously, right? But is it like really different? Is it strawberries and mangoes, or is it strawberries and mushrooms?
I think strawberries and mushrooms, to be honest. So what we know and how we approach our training methods in this country is far divorced from how they would train a horse in America, and they obviously run into time. Um, but when they gallop, they gallop. Um,
Right.
so he ran. He obviously his return race, his first since the Breeders' Cup was a very good run.
Very good, yeah.
He got trapped 5 deep and swung around them. If he'd drawn on the day, I think they wouldn't have beaten him. But he closed well late. In my opinion, he did empty sort of the last 50 yards, which was to be expected. He did have a setback after the Breeders' Cup. But a phenomenal comeback,
Yeah.
and I think he's very much on target for Dubai.
Yeah, I think so. I think he'll run well. Peter, back to the barrier trials. I'm going to put my Justin for Mark hat on. I'm obviously not as good looking as Justin, but would it work at Greyville with the new polytrack? Because I'm assuming in Australia. So where do they have the barrier trials in Australia? At the race course?
At the race course,
But are they racing as often as we race on our? I mean, what I mean is, can Greyville handle barrier trials on the turf?
have them on the poly.
Oh, you have them on the poly.
Yeah. So why we can't race consecutive meetings in
Let's
this
not,
country?
let's not discuss that today.
Let's not go down that route.
Pete, the farriers will be happy. Let me have a little bit of a go. The farriers will be happy if we have barrier trials on the poly. They'll be
Well,
shooing horses left, right, and center. I mean, it's phenomenal how many horses come off on our poly track in South Africa.
yeah, no, I think that
It's
uh,
sorted. It's sorted. Thanks,
yeah.
Justin. It's sorted. When are they? Do you know when they're opening the track?
I had conversation with Tony Riven this morning, and we were discussing. Obviously, they've been seriously interrupted
Rain.
by all the rain, so you can't point fingers at anybody for
Failing.
for
Yeah.
the delay.
Or delay. Sorry.
For the delay return of the poly track. But I think we just have to be patient. And now that we have got a gap in the weather, I think there was also a delay at the ports and clearing the fiber or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah. TIA. This is Africa.
Yes, so I think that's all in hand now,
Brilliant.
and I think within the first couple of weeks into April, we'll be having the
Okay.
benefit of a
So,
vastly improved poly surface.
well, we need it, right? We need it, and we don't have the horse population currently to race 3 times a week anyway.
Certainly.
But I think there is a plan in motion, or maybe not a plan, but I see a resurgent in positivity that we're going to breed more horses in South Africa, and therefore, hopefully, we can grow the population, which means we can get back to. I wrote in the Sporting Post the other day. I think we should only be racing 3 days a week. Personally, I think we're trying to fit too much in, and we just don't have enough horses. That's just my opinion. You might have a different one. I don't know,
No,
but
no, I fully agree with you.
less is more at the moment. I think less is more.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with Kevin sort of only racing Wednesday to Sunday at the moment.
yeah, and it's still too much. I think we're still not getting. Yeah,
Yeah, the horse population is there. You can't expect those horses just to be turning up week after week.
no, can't.
Yeah,
And yeah,
finish match.
I wrote in this. I'm a big advocate of multi meetings on the same day because you can just go from one bet to the next. That's how it used to be. You know what I mean? Like, and just get it all over with. I also wrote that if Richard Fourie is riding in Cape Town and there's a meeting in Joburg and there's a meeting in Durban, it just opens up opportunities for some of the other guys. Their craft gets better. I think short term we might have to, but it's the powers that be that have to do that. It's
No,
not.
sure. I think it's all got to do with turnover and things
It's
like
all,
that.
yeah, but there is no turnover, right? I mean, I double floated the bloody the Grey King and Great Plains in the quartet, Peter. I left. I didn't. I thought one stripe had one race, one hard race too many, and I thought, you know what? If he goes missing, I'm going to catch the quartet. 6,000 rand it paid.
Yeah,
I mean, a 1-5 shot went missing.
yeah. No.
6,000 rand. It's the race. The quartet in your race paid 10,000 rand, which is. I mean,
No. I'm not a punter, so I wouldn't
no,
even know.
neither am I. But I took a small 600 rand quartet because I thought, you know what, just in case everybody's going to have one stripe in, I'm not going to have it in, and I'm going to buy another horse. Peter, okay, so we need barrier trials by the sounds of it, right? Experience, um, preparation, horses' mental health, being used to going in a truck, not going in a truck first time, all of these things.
A
Okay.
huge advantage in my opinion. I saw the benefits in my time with Chris in Australia. And listen, I do think that people need to be enlightened on how to interpret the barrier trials. It's not a form guide.
Do we do enough of it, Peter? Do we teach the obviously Rosalind will tell you she's on social media all the time, right?
Yeah.
So after the one stripe race on Saturday, some people would have had Grant van Niekerk walk the plank, some would have hung Craig Zaki, and some would have shot Gavin Larena. So all three are doomed, right? Do you think that we educate the man at home enough? I think this podcast is great because people are going to understand about heart rates, for example. Do you think we do that enough?
I don't think so, but I do think education of the racing public is imperative.
Yeah.
Um, to interpret the outcome of Sunday's fiasco is, I think it's imperative that racing people get to know. We're not driving Formula One cars, or those jockeys are not driving. And they've got a mind of their own, and the 500 kilos of horse flesh versus 55 kilos of jockey
Yep.
uh, is a very
Yeah.
unknown scale. So um, it's not all about
It
you know
can't all be
the
about the money, Peter. It can't all be about winning a bet.
you've got to be able to interpret things that. And if you've never ridden a horse, and if you've never, even if you have ridden a horse, if you've never ridden a horse in race conditions, you haven't got an indicator. If you want to go left, you put it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen like that. And even those most of the time those jockeys are trying to keep those horses straight and trying to keep them to a true course. The horse has a mind of its own, and if it has little niggles and it's running away from something,
Yeah.
that complicates the whole situation. So people need to understand before shooting everybody
Yeah.
shooting everybody down post race. Uh, you need to take a step back and say, well, what exactly happened there? It's not Craig Zaki gets beat on too many odds-on shots or too many favorites.
We have to we have to educate, and it was so. I'm not a big fan of Ken Truter, but it was so refreshing to see the man visibly disturbed that he's also won,
Yeah,
but the stable star had lost. And we had it at Cheltenham last week where Matt Chapman interviewed a trainer, and the first thing he said was, "As long as the two that fell are okay." And it's just it's a different mindset, right? And I sometimes wish that our viewers, which are mostly in South Africa, would come to Cheltenham and stand next to a guy that's had 50,000 pounds on a horse that's running second over jumps, and he's not wishing that the one in front falls. He's not wishing that at all.
no, sure.
He's
Yeah,
not. And it's that mindset of listen, it's okay if they get beat. It's all
yeah,
right. Sometimes they
yeah,
just get beat. Do you know what I mean? We don't have
sure.
to blame somebody for that.
It's,
It's yeah, but
I,
people don't get the education. They come into racing through punting. I've always said, listen, if you want to cure people of gambling, Gamblers Anonymous should give them shares in horses.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Because you quickly learn about, you know,
Yeah.
we got a bad draw today, maybe not, or, we got this happening, or he didn't eat last week, or she stood on a stone 3 weeks ago, or it's been raining for the last 5 weeks at Turfentine and Tony hasn't been able to work the horses. I mean, these things
It,
happen. Yeah.
it's a massive, massive effort just to get to a horse to the races and to get them there fit, happy, well, ready to compete is a massive effort on everybody's part. And people don't realize, unfortunately, what it takes to get those horses to the races to be competitive.
Because
So
I don't think we communicate, not me and you, but we as an industry don't communicate that enough. So I think we focus too much on growing the totes, pools, blah, 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 blah. Whereas I think if we told stories about horses and people in racing, and if we talk, because we're storytellers as human beings from when the first person was ever born, we sit around a campfire and tell stories. And I think with stories, you get to learn and you get to appreciate. And normally it's a wiser person telling you the story, right? So I don't think we do that enough, Peter.
100%,
I really don't.
I've I've spent my life listening to and trying to
Story.
gain knowledge from different people,
Great.
I had one of the probably the most special moments in my entire racing career about 2 years ago when I was in Cape Town, and I grew up idolizing Mace Roberts, and Mace is not that much older than me, but I was denied the opportunity of ever being able to be a jockey. But I had the privilege of spending 2 hours with Mace and Garth Puller.
Okay.
Uh, we were at the Cape Sales, and I was asking them about all the great horses that they'd ridden, from your Sledgehammers to Great Gate Crashes, Majestic Grounds,
Politician, Bolcher.
uh, whatever. And I was just in awe of what they had to say about those horses. And as I say, it was probably one of the most special times that I've ever had in racing, just to be able to listen to those two highly knowledgeable, highly experienced, highly professional, great jockeys they were,
Yeah,
um,
it's true.
enlightening me on what it was to ride those horses. It was a very special moment for me.
Well, listen, we'll end it on that because I think this has been a fantastic podcast. And I think we genuinely, I know my mate Warren Inferno always says he could keep going for hours, but I've seen him, he can't. I've got a much better interviewing technique, by the way, Warren. I love you. On a serious note, Pete, I think we could do another episode in a few months' time. So let's leave it with five. No, let's go with three to follow from the Peter Muscutt stable for the remaining 6 months of the season.
I'm a little bit thin. I only have 25 horses at the moment. So,
Okay, so that's only 10. You've only got to find 10%, Peter.
I know.
Military Command, surely.
Electric is a very nice horse. Full congratulations to James Goodman for breeding him, and he's got a very interesting pedigree, and I think James capitalized on that.
Okay.
In that he sent the mare who's by High Chaparral to Far Away, who's by Warfront, but there's two horses in his third generation, both by Warfront themselves,
Okay.
who were very, very good horses.
I think it was luck. Do you know, James? It was luck. Luck.
Very well. Anyway, he's
It was luck.
I think he hit the bullseye with this. So the Warfront onto that mare looks like it's really worked.
Yeah.
My initial perceptions of the horses that he was going to go a mile. But the more I've worked with him and the more I've seen his readings, he's got great tactical speed. He can run some amazing fractions, and I've actually shifted from a mile back to 6 furlongs being his optimum in that.
Well, I'm so
Probably
proud. I'm so happy to hear that. Every interview in South Africa, do you think it'll go further? Do you think it'll go further? Do you think it'll go further?
he's probably just got too much speed, as you saw on Sunday. He's probably got too much
Winning over 12.
to go a mile, and there's nothing wrong if he only goes 6 furlongs. So
Well, the last sprinter you had ended up in America. So, I mean,
it's well, Craig Zaki got off after the race and said, "Here's your next Issy Bongo Bongo." So
there
from
you
his
go. Viewers, you've heard it there from brilliant.
mouth to God's ears.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a very nice, another very nice 2-year-old filly by Socrat, who I still think is flying under the radar as a stallion. Limited opportunities. The filly that I'm talking about, her name is Jordash.
Okay.
Also, probably in the same boat as Military Command. If you look at her, she doesn't look like a sprinter at all. She's a big, rangy, tall filly, covers an exceptional amount of ground, but also great tactical speed. And the more I look into her family on pedigree, I think she might be tending towards the speed side. So we're going to initially head the speed route with her. So she'll run in the, I think it's the Strelitzia towards the end of April.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
That's over 1,100 meters at Maritzburg. If she finds that within her grasp, then we will probably head on to the Alan Robertson, but we've fully allowed to with the direction of the program then to change route with her and to reevaluate her and go for the 1,400 meters and 1,600 meters at Greyville.
Yeah.
She's a lovely filly in the making, so I think she could be one to follow. And probably my next better prospect for the season is a horse called Issy Vavan.
Okay.
He came out, he won his second start after he ran very green at Kenilworth on debut, and then he came back to Durban after the Cape Summer season last year. He won his second start, the form of which hasn't held up, by the way, but he was very green on that day. Unfortunately, he sustained an injury in that race and was off for nearly a year.
Sure.
His timing was held, and he came back and he won very convincingly after a year off, running a good time. He also has a staying pedigree, so once again there are no rules.
No.
By a Rupt who never won below 2,200 meters, and there's not an ounce of speed in his female side, so he should technically go 10 furlongs, but he's also probably too quick. So
Yeah.
going to go to the in-for flight handicap on the same day as the other preparation races for Harrisburg Day. So he could be one to follow, and if he shapes up in that in-for flight, he could be a Maritzburg horse as well.
Brilliant. So there you go. You heard it, guys. 3 from Peter to follow for the season. From Glistian's perspective, Peter, thank you so much for doing this. Keep up the stats. I mean, that's what the punters want. The owners, of course, are delighted, and it's been thoroughly enjoyable having this chat.
Thank you very much. Just on one note on the stats, it's obviously I try to maintain them as best as I can. It is difficult, as you know, but I'm in a very precarious situation because over the last three seasons, basically, nearly every 2-year-old we have has won as a 2-year-old, and as you know, they shoot them through the roof from a rating perspective. So I'm in a very precarious situation now in that my lowest merit rated horse is 78, I think. I have zero maidens, and I haven't had for the whole season. So
Very difficult, isn't it?
basically, I'm excluded from 75% of the program.
Yeah.
So we're racing only at the top 25% of the program. So it makes it really difficult.
Is anything happening behind the scenes to address that?
Well, they are, they do make better assessments and try and drop them in the ratings. You win at your second start as a 2-year-old and you're in the 90s.
Yeah.
And it's easy for him to give you that rating, but they've got to make proper reassessment of those horses to drop them back into a.
Do you think we need more plated races, Peter?
I would say straight plated races, yes, but they're making conditions with those plated races, and they dropping you a point for each unplaced run and things like that. Just make it simple, simplify the whole situation, where people have got an understanding of where exactly you're going. Those progress races, it's like a nightmare trying to decipher how they arrive at the eventual weight scale of the horse. You assume as a two-time winner you're going to get 57.5, but your horse that's rated the same age, he's carrying less with you because he's had 2 unplaced runs or 3 unplaced runs in a row.
No,
It's just make it simple.
Look, so I don't have an issue with all of that if we've got 10,000 horses, but we don't have 10,000 horses. So then the differentiator becomes visible. So in America, you'll get mile race for horses that haven't run in the last month and haven't won more than one race in the last 2 years. They'll be as specific as that, but they've got enough horses to feed into that. So you don't have the like exactly what you've said, this disparity between whatever the conditions allow, because there's enough of them filling that condition.
Yeah,
it's very difficult.
It's programming. That's a whole different topic to
episode 3.
Very, very difficult to address, and it's not an enviable task. And
no, definitely not. Definitely.
But as you say, that can be addressed at a different time. But I think every industry body needs to be involved in the evolution and of our racing program and of our racing product for the betterment of everybody. There's so many stakeholders involved, as you know.
Absolutely.
And, you can't have people being unhappy for this and that. Surely there's got to be a resolution through dialogue on so many different facets.
Absolutely. And I think the start would be an absolute accurate, just own up. How many horses do we have that are in racing?
Yeah.
And how do we provide races for those horses?
Correct.
Owner, I don't want to hear probably bad news, but at the moment, I'm not getting bad news. I'm getting little tidbits of bad news. So eventually I'm going to get to the bad news anyway.
Yeah, sure.
What I mean, so I think we really need to see where we are, and the operators need to communicate, and we need to have full races with competitive horses, and that will improve the overall product.
It's got to.
Whereas at the moment, I looked at today's noms for Joburg, they've had to add 2 reserve events because there's just not enough horses, and we want that meeting to go ahead. But why does it have to go ahead? I don't get it. I want horses to run, by the way, but
yes. Well, we need them to run. Yeah,
we need them to run, but also
yes, we as trainers, we need them to run, and I try to run everything as often as possible. Yeah.
But if you've got nowhere to run it, or you don't have the right conditions to run it, or you run it in conditions that are short-term gain, long-term disaster for a horse, that's no good.
Not the ideal.
Not the ideal. Peter, thank you again. We will be putting this out soon, and I look forward to seeing you again. Thanks, my mate.
Thanks.